Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment. Delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Hey, good morning. We're back with you, Real Estate Exposed, right here on News Radio 600 KOGO. I'm Daniel Beer for the Daniel Beer Group over at Keller Williams, and special guest in studio today, David Price, General Manager of Bernardo Moving. He's in place here for Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank. Todd is ill, so he wasn't able to make it into studio. But David Price, Bernardo Moving, these are the people that we trust our clients to. And so we asked David to come into the office because the reality is there's so much that goes on around the move when you're moving. Is that a shock to you? Interestingly enough, I find it's a shock to more people than it should be, and the move is sometimes something that people take for granted, while if you do so, you can run into nightmarish situations. And if you're not working with the right company and a professional that's going to take care of your things and treat them the right way, but most importantly, also a company that can help you problem solve and troubleshoot down the line once you're actually, because things tend to happen in a real estate transaction. Let's just say that. So David Price, Bernardo Moving, how you doing?
Thanks, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, if you want to connect with David, by the way, we'll give out his number here periodically throughout the show, but it's 858-487-6683. That's to reach his people over at Bernardo Movers. And it's interesting what's going on right now. I see a big theme just coming into my life on a regular basis right now, David, as I either look at news or what's going on in sports or in our business, and and by the way, especially in the government, and it has to do with leadership.
Yes, absolutely.
Leadership is something that just continues to show up, and it's interesting if you look at the NBA, I was going to say our NBA Olympic basketball team. They're, of course, all NBAers, but America's Olympic basketball team that's just supposed to go in and crush everybody, right?
It's amazing that they're not.
Yeah, and, they made us feel like they were in the beginning. They had a couple of games, I think it was, where they just absolutely wiped the competition away. But the last couple of games that they've been involved with, they've almost been eliminated.
It's been close games, and we're not sure why, except
leadership is
exactly.
What it is where
exactly.
People are pointing to, and I couldn't agree more. If you look at the team, great talents, but who is exactly the leader of this team? And Carmelo Anthony, I'm not sure that he qualifies as one of our country's best NBA or basketball leaders. He's never been able to do very much with his own teams. And the strongest leaders we have aren't actually in the Olympics. They're not on the team. LeBron's not there. Chris Paul's not there. Even someone like Steph Curry's not there. And, of course, a guy like Tim Duncan, he's retired. And what you have is this team that's looking for a leader, and coming to and what that's resulting in is closer games than they should be having. When it's interesting to note that if they were to, if there was to be a draft for the Olympics, every player on every team, all 12 guys on the USA team would get selected before anyone else. They'd be picked 1 through 12. You disagree?
Exactly.
So it's interesting if you go and then turn and look at politics and what's going on in America. Trump has actually completely revamped his leadership team. So again, there's been, following weeks of falling poll numbers for the Trump campaign, he's done the right thing, I would say, which is he's shaking up his leadership team, bringing new people in, moving old people out, and he's basically trying to take control back of his campaign. And I'm not sure what you think maybe the challenges are for him, except for all I can think of is he is used to driving decisions, but the campaign in general, anybody can't disagree that it's a new thing for him. He's never done it before, and so he's allowed a lot of decision making to happen within his campaign, which he obviously isn't thrilled with. And the belief is now that he's brought in a new leadership team, which essentially allow him to act as the head.
Well, leadership is a key. If you go back to the basketball for a second, we've got a lot of really good individual players, but don't have, one individual leader. And so we've got teams that don't have the overall talent, but they're used to working together, and they have, the ability to work together and have a good team as opposed to a lot of individual players.
Absolutely. And by the way, you're listening to Real Estate Exposed here, News Radio 600 KOGO. I'm Daniel Beer for the Daniel Beer Group over at Keller Williams. And we have David Price, GM of Bernardo Moving, by far my favorite moving company in San Diego County. We'll do roughly 200 or so moves this year. We'll put about 230 homes under contract this year. Mm-hmm. But there's always a lag because anything we put under contract, say in late November into December, it won't close until next year. So we'll close maybe 190 to 200 or so homes this year. The people we trust our moves to are you guys. And that's a lot to say. The reason, and because if you think about it, we can actually do a fabulous job on our end of the business. We can negotiate the right deal. We can get them into the right house. We could get them the best price, for a seller. We can negotiate phenomenal terms and just make it a dream scenario on the sales end. But all of a sudden, when they go to make that move, there's the potential for pain.
That's correct.
There's the potential for, for it just not to go the way we would want it to go, because that's one aspect that we just truly can't control. That's one aspect where, there's so much help we can offer our clients. But one thing we don't do is stick boxes on our back and rent trucks. And we are just simply not professional movers at the Daniel Beer Group. We're professional home sellers. And so because we always have to then entrust that process, or what most other people do out there is they just have their buyer or seller fend for themselves and figure out how they're going to get it done. What we figured out quickly was that from a customer service perspective, it was tremendously important to us to align ourselves with the right moving company, because your work reflects on us. And ever since we work with Bernardo Movers, there's zero of that. Like, those issues just don't pop up for us anymore. In fact, now there's just more compliments on the back end, anywhere from the care that their personal belongings were given, but also to some to some really creative problem solving that can come up at the end of a transaction, especially when you have a buyer and seller trying to align a concurrent close. Got buyers trying to move, their stuff's in a truck, or you've sold your house, your stuff's in a truck, and you have to move somewhere else, and you have to get those closings to line up. But the seller of the home you're buying on the other end has some other stuff that goes down, maybe because they're even buying a house. So there's this long domino effect, and sometimes you get into circumstances that you don't love finding yourself in. You guys help people solve those on a regular basis.
We see the things that our clients see once or twice in their lifetime. We
Right.
see all the time, and we've got solutions for that. And when it comes to leadership, well, my title on my business card is general manager. My wife and I are the owners, so we have a personal interest in a commitment to taking care of our clients. Providing a real positive moving experience for our clients is important to us.
Well, that tells me everything. I mean, you present yourself as the general manager, though you are the owner, and that's because you are in there caring and working in and on the business on a regular basis instead of just setting it and forgetting it, which you could do because you have an amazingly successful company.
Right.
So coming up out here out of the break, moving nightmares. We're going to talk about some moving nightmares that we see people have gone through. David sees hears of on a regular basis, not because they're through his company, but rather he's asked to come in and rescue and solve a situation that was left a mess by others, and how you could get ahead of the moving process. Interestingly enough, it's sometimes the forgotten element. People are moving, but they're so wrapped up in the deal and where they're going and the schools and everything else involved with the move that they forget about the darn move. The truck, the boxes, the movers, all of that. So we're gonna wrap with David Price, Bernardo Movers here coming up out of the break. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. If you need to reach us for any reason, any question whatsoever, Daniel Beer Group can be reached at 858-356-2020. And if you're curious about our guaranteed home sale program and our trademark 5-day blitz, on its way to over 200 home sales this year and 230 or so homes under contract. You're talking about a home sale every 39 hours. The number's 858-356-2020. Hey, what's up? Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 KOGO. I'm Daniel Beer for the Daniel Beer Group over at KW. Actually, fresh off an awesome trip to Austin, Texas, where I had the pleasure of doing a private mastermind with the, biggest guru of the real estate world. Anyone at any brand would agree with that. Gary Keller. I had the privilege and honor of just sitting in what they call his top 100 mastermind, and it was just awesome. It was a great experience, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we heard from him as far as what the market's doing, because it echoes what I've been saying the market's doing, and there is a shift happening. Okay, there's change in the atmosphere, and we're going to give you the ability to look really sharp and smart in front of your friends looking back a few years, just like right now you think anyone that unloaded some real estate in 2005 or 6 is pretty much a genius. Truth is most of us weren't. We just, there's luck in timing, right? But there's also smarts in understanding history and seeing when it's beginning to repeat itself. Though we're going to jump into that here in a minute. Also in studio today, our special guest, David Price, general manager and owner of Bernardo Movers, and we're talking about moving nightmares, the kind of thing you want to avoid, which is why you want to, A, be aligned with the right real estate professional, and B, with the right moving company, because let me tell you, just like in any industry, okay, there's everything from the most reputable to the least, from the most experienced to those that are just simply experimenting, the most hands-on to those that are just simply pushing off and referring business elsewhere, and you have no centralized point of contact so that you can get things done quickly. And let me tell you, when your entire life is on a truck, that's important. So, David, what do you see, or what moving nightmares can you tell us about? And then how would your company have approached the same situation?
Well, one of the first things that happens to people when they list their house or go under contract is they will get bombarded with postcards and phone calls from internet companies, moving companies that don't really have a presence.
That's interesting. I didn't actually realize that before.
Yeah.
So your industry will basically look for new listings. I mean, this makes perfect sense. I just never really given your industry that much thought. So they look for new listings.
Correct.
And then boom, you're now being marketed to by all of the people that around the move, including movers.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry I interrupted.
No problem.
That's
so there are reputable companies, and unfortunately in our industry, there are that segment that are not reputable. They're either brokers that just sit in an office and try to match up, people's needs, but they don't really have a physical presence. They don't have any other structure.
So why is that going to be important to someone moving?
Well, because when you're dealing with a broker, there is really nobody to go to in terms of the issues that might come up.
What do you see happening in the course of a move? Where are the pain points?
The first thing is a reputable company will send somebody out to your house, do a physical inspection, and be able to identify the things that need to be moved, the things that need to be packed that you might want to pack versus the things that a professional should pack, and give you an accurate estimate. and then you know what to expect.
So that's an interesting point for me, right? An accurate estimate. You didn't just say an estimate, but you said an accurate estimate. Is there a lot of price, shenanigans in your industry?
A lot of times people will say, oh, I have a 3-bedroom house with a garage, and somebody over the internet will quote them and say this is about how much your move's going to cost. We all know that some people have what I like to call lightly furnished homes, and some people have what we call heavily furnished homes.
David, by the way, is a very polite man, more so than I am.
And so
he means you have too much junk.
Too much
is what
stuff,
he means.
Too much stuff.
It's pretty common though for most of us.
Well, but moving, if you start early, it's a chance to cull through and eliminate or trim down the things that you're moving. You don't want to pay to move things and then throw them away later. Honestly, we love to move a lot of stuff, but in reality, it's much more to your to benefit to make that process happen prior.
What about long distance moves? Someone's going long distance. What are the things that can go right or wrong with timing, or any kind of delivery or timing guarantees? I would imagine, I've never moved across state, but if I was moving across state, I would think that if I arrived, actually, I've heard of people that, unfortunately, people we've worked with that moved not with your services, but with other people's services, moved across state and then found themselves arriving at their destination 2 weeks ahead of their belongings with their entire life stuck on a truck somewhere in the middle of the country.
Right.
And the company just says, "Hey, sorry, tough." And they shrug their shoulders. How do you manage that?
Well, that starts again with the process of doing an in-home estimate so that we know what to expect in terms of planning for the truck. If you don't do an in-home estimate, a lot of times all your things won't fit on the truck because the driver gets there and there's a lot more than expected. And then you get part of your things go on the truck, part of them get left, and that becomes one of the nightmares. So really it's not a foolproof, but the best way to eliminate that is to start out with an in-home estimate.
It's interesting that someone would believe that they could tell someone over the internet, "Hey, I have, 2,000 square foot home. How much will it cost?"
Right.
I mean, every home is different. Every home looks different. They're furnished differently. They're kept differently. What about caring for the items themselves? Do you see the actual physical care cross company? Is it all fairly consistent, or is there anything particularly special that Bernardo Movers does to care for people's personal items?
Standard care for a professional mover should be a full blanket wrapping for your upholstered furniture, boxes. Boxes, if you're packing yourself, make sure you fill the box up completely, though the edges of the box actually help provide some structure. If you only fill it up to 2 inches from the top, that box is likely to collapse under the weight of any other boxes on it. So
are there measures that you guys take that are not entirely common in the industry? Because all I ever hear from people is just, these guys took such good care of my things. They were in pristine condition when we arrived. So we have about 60 seconds here left. Is there, is there, how much variance in care, in personal care, do you see from one end of the spectrum to the other where you guys are at on the good side?
It's all about using people who know what they're doing. If you get the internet movers, don't know who they're going to end up being at your house. Our guys are experienced. They've done this, for years and years, and they know how to take care of your things.
And it's not by accident that we refer our clients to you. So thank you so much for the care you give them. You want to connect with Bernardo Movers? The number is 858-487-6683. Go ahead and get yourself a quote. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 KOGO. Daniel Beer for the Daniel Beer Group. We're coming up next with the market shift and words straight from Gary Keller just this past week. You won't want to miss it. When you're selling your home, do you think in terms of what's my sales price going to be? Or do you think, where shall I position my home strategically to complement a greater and proven process and lead to a predictable result within a set period of time? You're listening to Real Estate Exposed with Daniel Beer Group over at KW, and my co-host Todd Pian in Home Street Bank, who is homesick. Get better, Todd. When you're selling your home, maybe you've actually already experienced the pain of an expired listing. Were you focused too much on price? And when you were focused too much on price and you were setting that sales price, that listing price, were you viewing it as a sales price or as positioning, as a marketing number? Because here's the big aha. Nobody selects their sales price. There is no set sales price for any home. At least not in San Diego County and not anywhere across the country that I'm aware of. But I'll leave the opportunity for the chance that might exist somewhere, since who knows. Here in San Diego County, let me tell you, there is no such thing as the sales price for your home. There's no one's home that's worth a set exact to the penny value, and not 1,000 more, not 1,000 less, not 10,000 more, not 10,000 less. It just doesn't exist. And so there's a big incongruency in the approach most people take with their home pricing approach, which is they believe they're setting the sales price. Their agent allows them to believe they're setting the sales price. Their agent typically thinks they're setting the sales price. But you're not. It's all ever only about positioning. Because your sales price is really only one element to a greater plan and process. Okay? Now, the majority of the time, that plan and process, we call it list and pray. Because what you're typically getting in the marketplace is photos taken of your home. They get stuck online. And then what happens? You start holding these private viewings of your home. And one person at a time comes in and either gives you feedback or gives you offers. And when that happens, you have no idea if that's actually representative of the market, because all you had was an individual buyer giving you their individual opinion. It's a broken process, a very broken process. And back to pricing, our entire thinking about what a list price is broken. And this is at the heart of what we call our 5-day Blitz program. Okay, this is the same trademark program we'll use to sell over 200 homes this year. Okay, we'll put over 225 or so under contract. That's about one every 39 hours. We'll end up closing about 190 or so of those this year, because anything we'll do in December, late November, that'll close next year. And so the way we think of it, and the way I urge you to think of it, is that your list price is just positioning. I call it virtual shelf space. Where are you sticking yourself into the market in order to compete, drive traffic, drive offers, drive interest, and truly get a market opinion on your home? See, there's all these tools out there, the Zillow, valuations and estimates and all the junk that's out there, okay? But what you need, if you actually want to get serious about selling your home anytime in the next 12 months, isn't a Zestimate. It's not, a home price valuation. You don't need that. What you need is a positioning number. What is the most strategic number you can use for your home and your position today in this market in order to gain an advantage over those homes you're competing with? Because, by the way, you are in a big beauty contest. There's over 7,000 homes for sale in San Diego County right now. There's literally over 1,000 homes a month that go unsold. expired, canceled, withdrawn. People believe that everything flies off the shelf right now. The market's shifting.
Yes, it is.
It's absolutely shifting, and we're going to talk about that. And it's entirely important that you understand that if you do things the same way everyone else does them, you're going to get an average result. It's actually categorically impossible to argue with that point. When you're doing things like everyone else, you will only expect to be average. That's why we need to have a conversation around positioning. And I'm going to give you a website to go to where you could put your address into, and we will help you for free come up with, if you were selling your home today, where would your right asking price be, your list price, from a positioning perspective. That's valuesinsandiego.com. Valuesinsandiego.com.
Yeah, that's one I haven't heard of before. Yeah.
Well, it's critical. It's critical. See, a lot of people, they don't see that. And look, it's a natural human tendency. I get it, right? I spent 8 years of my career doing what everyone else was doing, and I was also getting average results.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so I spent a long time believing that the asking price I was putting on the sale of my of someone's home somehow was going to, be the sales price or influence the sales price more so. So who wouldn't want to then price up in order to have quote-unquote negotiating room? The reality is that negotiating room is really just a misnomer for a way to disinvite people. It's pushing away people. It's literally telling people you might find better value elsewhere. And the reason a lot of the time people build in too much of this quote-unquote negotiating room is they don't understand positioning, and they don't understand the elements that are important in home pricing and in having a proper price strategy. They don't understand list to sales price ratios for any given neighborhood and home type. Mm-hmm. They don't understand days on market and absorption rates. They don't look at how the neighborhood is behaving, which gives you a window into how the buyer experiences the market. And so in some markets, if your home, if you've built in $30,000 of fake negotiating room, and most importantly, if you've breached the tenets and rules and laws of positioning, well, you've just put yourself in a place where you've literally made yourself disappear from hundreds of eyeballs, and those that do see you just don't see value because they don't believe they would be able to reach to your price point, because the experience they're having in some neighborhoods is they have to make a 98, 99% of ask offer.
Now, Daniel, if from what I've seen, I believe that if you end up overlisting your home, at a higher price, higher than what it should be, that you actually end up over time selling it for lower than what you would have if you had listed it at a fair price to begin with.
That will always happen. See, here, let me give you a phone number, by the way, because if you want to talk about this concept or any other, if you want to connect with myself or David Price over Bernardo Movers, the number's 858-356-2020. Let's have 2020 vision. 858-356-2020. The website to go to for your positioning strategy is valuesinsandiego.com. And that's right, David. What happens is people have the natural tendency to push their price up. The agent that they're dealing with, if they're doing the average amount of deals in our county per year, they're doing anywhere from 3 to 4 home sales a year.
Right.
Okay, 3 to 4 home sales a year, which means that agent's really, really darn excited to get a listing, which means they're just going to there's no way they're walking away without it.
Right.
No way. You want your home to be worth any number that wants to come out of your mouth? The answer is going to be yes, because there's no way that a man or woman trying to feed their family is walking away from the listing regardless of what price the seller wants. If they want too much, that's fine. They're going to go into a long game and play the price-reducing thing that, people do. It's worst-case scenario, they'll hope to get some leads off the sign that'll be in your yard, So you'll be used as a billboard. But, and that's if they're doing the average amount, 3 to 4 home sales a year. But what if they're doing triple that? Triple that. There's still 12 home sales a year. 12. That means you're successful once a month.
Once a month.
Okay? What if it's, double the triple, right? And you go to twice a month, 24 home sales. So you get the point. It's not there's just not enough experience behind the suggestion. So what we find is that you want to price your home under the nearest major price bracket. As an example, we have a home right now under contract in La Jolla. It's actually a condo in La Jolla. Most people would have been tempted, the probable range of pricing is about low 400s for this property. Most people would have been tempted to price it at maybe 410 or 420, maybe push it up to 430 and see what happens. Well, because they're working with us and we're strong, and our lead listing specialist, Joe McShane, guy's strong and knows how to deliver value and paint the picture and deliver a proven process. Well, that home was listed or that condo, I should say, was listed at $399. What's the result? The result's double-digit offers and people outbidding themselves and fighting over it. And this thing is selling for tens of thousands. It's like over $20-something thousand. I think I've even pushed like $30-something thousand. Don't quote me on it exactly, but the exact number is not the important part of the story. Over the asking price and well above the probable range they would have been in with a different price strategy. But that's about understanding positioning. And, of course, you have to have it layered with a smart strategy right behind it. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. We're going to discuss the market, the shift. It's coming. The number to reach us is 858-356-2020. Put yourself in a winning position in a changing market. Daniel Beer here with the Daniel Beer Group. Hey, let's lower the volume here because we're going to talk about a serious topic. And we're talking about the market shift. It's coming. Now, if you're surprised by it, please don't be. Please stop being. Because if you thought gold was going to go up for absolutely ever once it hit $2,000 or $2,000 an ounce, it wasn't going to go up forever. And by the way, when it started falling, it wasn't going to fall forever. And when the housing market was going up forever, and so on, etc., things have cycles. The economy is cyclical. Our housing market is too. We are now in the beginnings of a small adjustment. Now, here's the key before we even go on with the conversation. I want to be very clear on something. I am not scaring anybody into believing that Armageddon's coming, the world's falling, and you should all run out and sell your home. In fact, I'll be the first to tell you right here on air that I'm not selling mine, but I also do have a long-term plan with it. Okay? What we're going to see is a mild shift. Mm-hmm. That's just because it's built very differently than the last one, right, Dave? I mean, Absolutely. It's a very different economic environment.
Yeah, the mortgage environment is completely different this time from what it was last.
So you're listening to Real Estate Exposed here with Daniel Beer, the Daniel Beer Group, #1 Keller Williams agent by volume in all San Diego County, and we're talking about the biggest brokerage in North America. So believe me, I'm bringing you this from a lot of perspective, okay, from a lot of perspective. In fact, I published a paper on this, and the head of and the guy that used to be regional vice president of Wells Fargo read it, and then ran into me at a restaurant, approached me, and said, "Dan, you're right. We're seeing over my because he's still very much connected with his guys at Wells. He's telling me how boy they're seeing notice of defaults rising. They're seeing change. And I just came back from Austin, Texas, where Gary Keller Williams, okay, the owner of, or the founder, I should say, of the biggest real estate company in North America, I believe the world, was talking about the very same thing. Okay, we're in the beginnings of the shift. And how do you know it? How do you know it when you're still in a low inventory environment like we are here in San Diego, where homes are still moving very quickly, where there's still so much opportunity for sellers, and by the way, for buyers too. And we just made my brother a buyer not long ago because he locked in a phenomenal interest rate. So there's reasons you'd want to be either. You just have to always have your eyes open to it and be aligned with the right professionals that could explain it properly. By the way, I've also had conversations with other buyers recently that based on their goals, I said, please don't buy right now. My brother's goal, that was congruent with buying now. So I said, yes, absolutely. Let's go buy now. So what we're seeing is just a little, when you do as much business as we do, you have a real interesting pulse on the market and that you see the shift in conversations. And that's where we are right now. You see deals get shaky right now over little things that are becoming big things. And that's the sign of a shifting market. It's where
That's right.
It's where the paint all of a sudden becomes a big deal, right? Where a year ago no one would have cared. You would have just said, "Hey, I'll paint the house." No, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's happened is you have all this run up in pricing. We have all these buyers that we've borrowed from the future with the threat of disappearing interest rates, and now today's buyer, we're also seeing so many more contingent offers because today's buyer, they're willing to participate at this pricing, but they also want to sell their home in the same pricing environment, right? So you just get this shift in mindset and how difficult things are and what's keeping people from pulling the trigger and the way they're negotiating repairs. Like, they'll pay, but they want the darn thing near perfect. And it's interesting, just the conversations. You really need to be at an advanced level of experience as a real estate professional to be able to navigate through some of what you see going on in today's market. By the way, if you want to connect, the number's 858-356-2020. 858-356-2020. This is the Daniel Beer Group. You can connect with any of our listing or buyer specialists. You can connect with me. Happy to speak with you. And don't forget to get your free positioning report, not a valuation like you get elsewhere, positioning report. That website's valuesinsandiego.com. Values, that's plural, insandiego.com. And let me also remind you, we have Bernardo Movers, the trusted moving company of the Daniel Beer Group. Bernardo Movers, give them a call, get a quote, do it the right way, and protect your belongings. The number's 858-487-6683. 858-487-6683. Love ya.